What's up, guys? I want to talk about a crazy subject, and I probably normally wouldn't talk about a subject like this until I'm starting to see people like L.A. Marzulli come out and Steve Quayle talking about this stuff, and some of their scenarios are pretty interesting. But it's a crazy thing that's going on right now about these black-eyed kids, and I think it's purely demonic of what's going on. I don't fully know what's going on, but I know it's purely demonic. But in this video, I got L.A. Marzulli that talks about it, and then I got some eyewitness accounts in here of their accounts of what they've witnessed and stuff. So just tell me what you think. Is this crazy or is it just demonic?
Hi again. Gary Stearman, time for another Prophecy in the News Daily Update. And L.A. Marzulli is in studio with us today. We're going to talk about his Watchers series. And Watchers 5 is the one in which you mentioned the subject of the black-eyed children. Mm-hmm. And, when I think of black eyes, eyes all filled with black, I always think of the little gray guys, the supposed UFO guys that step out of their UFOs and they fix you with a hypnotic stare, and they have those almond-shaped black eyes. And there's something similar, I think, in this phenomenon that you're talking about with the black-eyed kids.
Well, yes, and we feel, when I say we, my good friend and director, producer of the Watcher series, Richard Shaw, we believe that in fact these children with the black eyes are not children. They may in fact be hybrid children of some sort. In other words, this goes back into the Genesis 6 scriptures again. They're manifesting, and people go, well, why are you talking about this stuff? Why are you showing us this stuff? There's a reason for it. As a co-producer of the Watchers series, just the name alone, we are watching what is happening out there and then presenting it to you, and you deal with it now. People need to be aware of what's literally manifesting on this planet. And if it was one or two of these stories, we'd dismiss it. But the stories are becoming more and more visible. More and more witnesses are coming forward. We've had people, after we aired Watchers 5, I had several emails of people who never went on the record before. They believe they had an encounter. The woman that we interviewed, Leah Campen, had no knowledge of Nephilim, no knowledge of a so-called breeding program or a hybrid, anything like that, nothing at all. And she had an encounter, and we got her testimony on film for Watchers 5. And it was chilling. One critic wrote back and said, oh, these are just kids with contact lenses. They're not kids with contact lenses. People who encounter these children, and again, I don't believe that they're children, are overwhelmed with they're overwhelmed with fear, and they have this presence of evil. You can't make this stuff up. The presence of evil just exudes from these beings, whatever they are. People are terrified when they see them.
Well, L.A., this leads me to another territory in ufology, which is the Men in Black.
Sure.
Going back to the 1950s, there were a number of books written about these mysterious men in black who would show up after a UFO sighting and claim to be government representatives, but they obviously weren't human beings. They were some strange concoction, crossbreed, or whatever. And many of them were said to have very dark black eyes. And I see a little bit of a correlation there, possibly.
Yeah, look, the phenomenon is very complex. No one has all the answers. What's interesting is we ask ourselves, why now? We've never, why are they appearing now? Why are they manifesting now? Is this some sort of vanguard, some advanced force to sort of test the waters? Look, when we're told in 2 Thessalonians that Satan comes with all signs and lying wonders, what about that? Why do we have this truncated belief system where we limit this? I'm not saying he's all powerful. I'm not saying that. But my gosh, what is coming is unprecedented. He knows his time will be short. He's headed to that area where he's finally cast down from the second heaven to earth. And he's trapped here, and he's really ticked off, paraphrase, because he knows his time is short.
But anyway, I had an email from a gentleman recounting a story. He's driving with a lady friend, and they're going home to her place, and he's going to take a right turn and go down this one road. And even before he takes the turn, something says, something, he starts to act up. What I mean by that, he starts to get very uneasy, and like he doesn't want to go down that road, but he goes anyway. And after a mile or two, there is this night, under a street light, is a man sitting in a lawn chair, and next to him a woman with red hair standing. And when he saw them, immediately he was taken aback by that, and he also began to be very afraid. And he didn't know why he was very afraid. And as the car got closer, he noticed that this guy was well over 7 feet. Even though he was sitting, he estimated him about 7 feet tall. He was real thin, incredibly thin, and his skin was pale. At first, he thought that that both the woman and the man had like powdered their skin or something. But when they got close, they both realized, the woman, the driver and his passenger, lady friend he's taking home, that this wasn't paint or powder. This was who they were. And as they got close, he was communicated telepathically, which really set him on edge, obviously. And then when he looked at them, he thought that the man. So this guy is driving in Texas. He lives in East Texas, and his family lives in West Texas, relatives. So this guy likes to drive at night with the radio on, big thermos of coffee, all alone, the stars. I mean, I understand that. It's, my wife and I every now and then hop in the car and we just drive up the Pacific Coast Highway because it's just a beautiful drive, especially on a full moon. The moon's on the ocean. It's very, very romantic, very beautiful. So I understand it. So the guy's driving the pickup truck. He's driving from East Texas to West Texas. It's going to be an all-nighter, and he'll arrive there early in the morning and have a big breakfast and what have you. So this guy's driving for 2 or 3 hours, and he's got to relieve himself. So he pulls over the pickup truck, and it's like in the middle of nowhere, according to the story. I mean, there's not a light anywhere, okay? He's in the middle of nowhere. It's not a farmhouse with a little welcoming light twinkling, 2 miles in the distance. Nothing. The guy's in just a real lonely stretch of road. He gets out of the car, leaves the truck running, right, and relieves himself in front of the car. He turns around, walks around the car, and there by the door is one kid. And the kid says, with black eyes, by the way, "Hey, mister, let me in. We'll go for a short ride." That's a direct quote. "Hey, mister, let me in. We'll go for a short ride." And this guy's ex-military, absolutely terrified. And if he had to relieve himself, he probably would have wet himself. If he inches to the door, he opens up the door, jumps in the cab, and speeds away. He gets down the road about a mile or two, calms himself down, and starts to think rationally. It's like, well, this is just a little kid here. Why was I so taken aback? Why am I reacting this way? This isn't right. And he decides to go back to the site and see if he can find this kid. Of course, he goes back to the site. Kid's not there. No trace. Nothing. And we did a reenactment of that in Watchers 5. It's just a very, very chilling story. I'll tell you another story. We interviewed this woman, Leah Campen, who was fascinating. And actually, the interview with her came about in a very serendipitous way because Richard Shaw was talking about the black-eyed kids I'd given in the book, and we were going to shoot David Weatherly. He was coming in, the interview, real creepy stuff. He was telling a friend of his Terry, and she goes, "Wow, Richard, that sounds really bizarre because my friend Leah called me up last week, having exactly the same encounter you're talking about." Richard goes, "Oh, my gosh." And so we vet the story. Leah flies into Los Angeles. She was actually going to be in town the following week, so how serendipitous is that? And she flies in with her boyfriend, and we interview her. And here's the deal. Leah Campen has no Nephilim dog in the hunt, no UFO breeding program dog in the hunt, no end-time eschatological dog in the hunt, nothing. This woman is a clean slate. She's basically unchurched, has no idea what's going on. It's none at all. And her story is very riveting. She's a runner. So she goes out and she runs, and I understand what that is because I do too, as often as I possibly can. And she's in Milwaukee, and she's in this upscale neighborhood. And when she runs in this upscale neighborhood, never sees anybody on the street, never sees any kids. So she's running, and it's around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, getting on dusk, and she sees a boy down the street from her, about a block away. And she notices his clothes, and the clothes are okay, but they just, something's funny with the clothes. Don't fit right, or look right, or can't put her finger on it, but the clothes just, So as runners will do, as you get close to someone you're about to pass, we look up from our run, and we say, good evening. That's what we all, I mean, I do the same thing. Nod or good evening, whatever. We acknowledge them, just being friendly. So she gets close to the kid, she lifts her head up, and she's absolutely freaked because what this kid is looking at her, and his eyes are all black. There's no whites at all. Doesn't say a word. I said, what was it like? She said it was like looking down, his eyes were like looking down a pool, or his eyes were looking down, looking into his eyes was like looking down 2 dark corridors to a pool of evil below. Her quote, the direct quote from her, not me. I said, who do you think this was? What do you think this was? Remember, she has no idea about the breeding program, no idea about Nephilim. Her words, not mine. She said, I thought I was looking at the spawn of Satan. And she absolutely ran as fast as she could away from there. And she had to go back that way. And so she approached after she was gone for like 3 hours. Normally her runs would take an hour. She's gone for 3 hours. That's how freaked out she was. She finally made it back. And then she had this long conversation with Terry, and that's how we got a hold of her. So as I'm interviewing her, I got David Weatherly's book next to me on the table, face down. And David Weatherly's book on the cover has an illustration of what a black-eyed child looks like. And I say to her, I said, Leah, does the person you encounter look anything like this? And that's when I hold the cover of the book up. And she looks at it, and she's immediately taken aback. And, body language is everything. She's like squirming in her seat, getting as far away as possible from the book cover, going, ooh, yes, that's it, ooh, just like that. So this phenomenon is real. It's ongoing. It's actually burgeoning. It's not something we heard about 50 years ago. It's very new. And in my opinion, what we're looking at is the hybrids are being tested. They're just being thrown out, and they're being tested. And they're in a fixed state, and that fixed state is one of malevolency. They are malevolent beings.